top 10 list of Boutique Blu Ray releases this year. I've done 15 the past couple of years, but I'm going to try and do 10. More choices, more problems, right? Hi, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris, and I'm going to talk today about 10 of my absolute favourite Boutique Blu Ray releases of the year. Lots of great films this year, although I will say I spent most of the early part of the year trying not to buy as much as I did. I mean, I failed miserably towards the end, but in the early part of the year I did miss, I would say, a few. So maybe this isn't as comprehensive, maybe a list as I would have had in previous years, but regardless, these are 10 recommendations from which to go and view movies yourself. These are the 10 best overall releases that I can pick. And while there are movies that I've seen for the first time this year on Boutique Blu Ray in some way, shape or form, maybe the release wasn't kind of all that much. Something like Leo Carax's Annette that I've seen this year, like a fabulous movie, but the disc itself kind of lacking, and we'll probably see a more complete version somewhere down the line, and at that point we'll make a top 10 list somewhere, but at the moment it's just a fabulous film. So I'll start at 10, and we're starting with a Criterion disc. And not the only Criterion disc that I have, to be fair. This is Richard Brooks's In Cold Blood, and this appeared in a watch list, so if you watch the watch list where this appeared in, this will be no surprise that this made an appearance on my list. It tells the story of true life story of the murder of a family, and an adaptation of a Truman Capote novel, which I started to read well. The book's slightly different from the film and how it sets out to portray the people that are in there. It very much focuses on the people that are committing the crime in this and kind of the reasons and why they ended up doing it. Some absolutely phenomenal performances in this right across the board. And it's a really chilling and harrowing look at how, horrific crimes can be committed, and for there maybe not to be the emotive rationale or disturbedness that you would normally associate with it. It's chilling, but it's also, very moving and captivating. And the usual supplemental material, a lot of it that involves Truman Capote and actually what a weird and wonderful character he is, only enhanced that ever so much. An absolutely terrific film, beautifully shot, some of the best cinematography you'll see. The use of lighting in some of this is just, it's stuff that will be taught in classes because it is so exceptional. Number 9 is, well, it's a release that I've seen recently, although that's a bit of a cheat because I'd seen some of the content some before. We're talking about Son of a Nightmare from Eureka Entertainment, and like I say, I'd seen some of this before. I fully expected to like this. I had seen Johnny Corncob, which is the kind of, well, it's Son of the White Mare and other early works by Marcel Yankovic. I seen Johnny Corncob earlier on in the year as part of the art house animation a season on the Criterion channel, which was just brilliant, along with another release that came out this year in the UK, which was Belladonna of Sadness. Now, one's Japanese, one's Eastern European. This, while being a 4K release, just an utterly fabulous movie. Again, side recommendation. The disc just isn't quite as fully featured as something like Son of the White Mare is, but again, terrific. But both films use animation in ways that you haven't really seen. And Son of the White Mare, being a first-time watch, really, I mean, it's not just animation for animation's sake. They really use the benefits of that medium as things flow and morph and change. Tell a story of a young boy who seeks to right all of the wrongs that are within the world, to kind of fix it, so to speak. And it's just wonderfully told. It's beautiful storytelling, and one that really, it's even better movie than Johnny Corncob or Janusz Vitez, as its other name is. Which is also, they're both wonderful, but I think, Son of White Mare's animation level goes up another bit and deserves top billing here for sure. Also on this is a number of short films, including one of somebody pushing a rock up a hill that's just kind of line painting more so than anything else, but shows you the power, the beauty that can be made just using animation. And Sisyphus is just a wonderful watch thing. I encourage you to eat up this disc. More of this, please. Eureka, this is something that was really brave to release as part of the Masters of Cinema, but something that I think is utterly fabulous. And then you include the supplemental material that goes into the genesis of the studio that made a lot of this stuff, about Yankovic himself, about the team that he had with him, and kind of what encouraged him to make a lot of this stuff, and then its long-term impact. I think it's just a terrific release, and yeah, one that's rightly to be celebrated, and it deserves its place on top of the list. Next up is the first one of 4K releases this year, and from a label that I find a lot of joy and substance in their releases, and actually who could release any number of 4K releases that they have, but have curated things that are really going to shine and be able to show off the power of 4K. And I'm talking about BFI, and I'm talking about the proposition here. 4K film from John Hillcoat. It tells the story of a son caught between two brothers, whichever way. He's damned if he doesn't, damned if he does. To save one brother, he must condemn another one. It's dirty, it's grimy, it's gripping. And when I seen it many years ago, not shortly after its release many years ago, I was kind of turned off by its bleak nature, by the fact that there wasn't much joy or hope in this world for a lot of it, and it was just like portrayal of the outback in Australia. Didn't seem like a very nice place to be. But as you get older and you appreciate, the kind of ability to create a believable world with a really great cast in it, you kind of change your view on the cinema making, or the movie making process. And that is when you have a great cast, and this is a great cast, combined with great filmmakers, with great production design, with great soundtrack and great sound way across, you get something that's really quite special, and something that is completely celebrated in 4K, benefits from 4K. Rather than just releasing famed world cinema movie in 4K because it'd be a big seller, BFI used the time and resources of their limited budget to put something like this together. And a booklet that is basically like a novel full of just exploration of the world, the filmmaking, and everything that went in to make this such a really outstanding film, and one that deserves to be seen a lot more, and that BFI have created an opportunity to be able to do that with by creating a stunning release. I even think the box art, etc., that's in here is also terrific. Without taking the J card off, this kind of stuff's really beautiful. More of this, please, BFI. I know you've done Get Carter, which was also great, and we're all disappointed that Watership Down, because I think Watership Down fitted perfectly into that mold as well. It's a real pity that we didn't get that version of that as well. But those are the kind of releases that I'm happy to see you're channeling the time and effort into, and another great year. BFI, really appreciate it. Next up is a release from one of the best companies there is out there at the moment. They don't release a lot, but what they do release is always where they're picking up. We're talking about Second Sight, and I went for Dog Soldiers 4K. Now, Dog Soldiers 4K, this could have been pretty much any Second Sight release this year. They've been all particularly great. Starts with the artwork. Look at the artwork on the front of that. It's absolutely and utterly spectacular. And even if I were to go to the back, even the house set in at the back there, it's just wonderful. I just utterly adore the artwork there. First part, we get art cards. I still don't know what any of us will ever do with all these art cards. And might be an idea to kind of set up like in a burial, to be buried with all of our art cards. But save a fortune in wood and coffin. I'll have many of them that I could probably do something with, but I'm getting away from what is really important here, which is the film. It's a low budget werewolf story set in Scotland in its own right as a premise that's pretty great. But you have what is now a pretty great cast: Sean Pertwee, Liam Cunningham, all of unknown actors as they were at the time, and you get something that's incredibly powerful, and a film and a style of film that I think could have been destroyed by having a bigger budget. The constraints actually give it its charm, they give it its authenticity, and actually the use of practical effects over, say, CGI is one that makes this stand its test way better than probably anything else. Is the story sort of predictable? Yes, but it's sort of like a slasher. It's like, who will make it to the end? Who's the killer? It's all of that kind of stuff. So that genre of film I don't think is ever really going to be inventive or new in any really great way, but this does a particularly fabulous job of it. And, like I say, just a fantastic release. Next up is a label I'm very famous probably for, and that I haven't engaged with as much as I had in previous years. I'm talking about Second Run, and the release I picked from them this year is Party and the Guests. And The Party and the Guests by Jan Nemec is a film that I watched that looks to be in the surface about a gathering in a field of some friends at a party that they've been invited to. Could be a wedding, could be something like that. And there's one by one that there's like an undercurrent or a theme that lies underneath the whole thing that makes you think, well, something else is going on here. And then the film ended, and I kind of thought, well, that's a strange film. Kind of enjoyed it, but what was it? And you go to delve in what it was about, and it's kind of, as a lot of things from this time period were in that part of the world. Czechoslovakia, it's a commentary on, you know, the authoritarian rule that they had around the time, and the fact that this was sort of banned, and because it was so overt at the time, and its criticism of authoritarian rule and how you couldn't speak up and how you were just like a guest at a party. And between that and the booklet and the audio commentary that's here, and then the other audio commentary from the production booth, which has been very prevalent in second run releases, I think what you get is an absolute terrific movie and exploration of the themes and time and place that this movie was shot in. And because the film is not very long, I think those multiple audio commentaries, etc., really lend themselves to rewatching and going through. I certainly did it, got a lot out of, and they're just brilliant releases of films that have an awful lot to say to, especially other Europeans, and especially around the world that we live in at the moment, about kind of why it's important to have free speech, why it's important to have art as an outlet for, as a lens to view the world through. And Parting the Guess, I just thought was terrific. We're in our top 5, and we have another one from that old Criterion label, and a first time watch for me, and one that I kind of grumbled my way through the first 40 minutes of, going, God, typical nonsense. Kind of, it's a bit hammy in places. It's Lost Highway by David Lynch. I know this was one that some friends of mine had said, God, you should watch out for this one. If you like, say, Mulholland Drive or something, this is the most akin to it, and I can definitely see where they're coming from. I think that kind of early part of the film is where I think it's the weakest. I think it's when we get to the Balthazar Getty kind of character and he comes in that we really get to see some of the stuff fleshed out. I think as a film, it's quite easy to follow for a Lynch film. That doesn't mean that it's going to have a straight line storytelling, but this kind of restoration, and this is only the Blu-ray release from here. 4K didn't come out here. I couldn't wait. Seen, I bought, I liked, I watched. It's just terrific restoration of a film that deserves to be seen by more. Some fabulous performances in it, and some ones that I think controversially I don't think are particularly great. Bill Pullman, I was going to say Bill Paxman, was a different fella. Bill Pullman's in it. I think it's just okay. Maybe it fits, and upon when I watch this more and more, I'll realise that actually his contrast of his performance actually plays very nicely against that. But Patricia Arquette's performance, Balthazar Getty's performance, they're all terrific in here, and they really add some weight and some. The performances make sense of a world that kind of should be nonsensical, if that makes sense. Some of the gore and the kill scenes, etc., are especially grim as well. God, but fun, but really fun. And when I look at the kind of movies that I have on list, maybe that bit of fun, and maybe in something Dog Soldiers are the entertaining releases that I've seen this year, whereas an awful lot of these other releases are maybe a bit more serious or you know, maybe art housey than other some, but having that bit of play was great fun. People were right. This is as good a Lynch movie as you'll see. Ooh. Now, I could have picked any number from this company at this point. There were a lot of classic reissues of things that have been released by other labels. It's BFI again. Did 3 Bresson movies this year. I watched all of them, really enjoyed all of them, but Bresson as a filmmaker sort of... I've still yet to hit my stride with Bresson. I really enjoy his movies, but there's like a coldness to them that I butt my head against, but the extras, etc., that are helping bring that out. Francois Truffaut's Jules Agim, and I talked about this in the watch list. If you've seen that watch list, you'll know how much I adored this. And it's not just the fact that this was a first time watch for me. I have Truffaut box sets in there before, but I've never really had the exploration to get into it in this way, and in the way in which this release has. And I kind of ummed and ahed about putting this in my list because it has had releases beforehand. It has had good releases beforehand, but this one has many. It's nearly an exclusively different set of extras on it, that use the BFR archive, the conversations that explore both Truffaut's filmmaking and the effect of Jules Agim. It's a really wonderful tale about basically about a threesome couple of 2 fellas and a girl. The girl played by Jean Moreau, who is just marvelous. and how their relationship as a three people is complicated, but not complicated. How love can stretch beyond romantic relationships. How love can stretch beyond the world and the politics that it sits in. As you say, Jim, just a terrific movie. It's backed up in a terrific release. A lot of these BFI info releases are all terrific this year. Even 400 Blows, whichever criterion of the BFI release is terrific of that as well. And I encourage you to pick actually all of them, Lapudus and Last Metro as well. It's all terrific releases. I seriously encourage it. If I had another great year, I probably didn't see as much of their British cinema as I normally would have, so I missed some of those, but the other stuff that I did see was just terrific and very much celebrated here in this release. Top 3 time. Ooh, apologies. Of another criterion. This was the best film that I've seen from Criterion this year. It's kind of blew my socks off. This is Hiroshima Mon Amour by Alan Renee. Holy smoke balls. This is some film. If you said a film was stylish, I think one of the metrics you'd be using to compare it to would be Hiroshima Mon Amour. It's just so beautiful. The story of a couple who find each other in a world that's kind of in conflict, and how they find each other and solace in each other when they really shouldn't be doing that. They're kind of taking the things that are wrong about life and present them in a way that makes sense. Oh, my God, what a film. Beautifully shot, beautifully told. You can see just the pure craft and the genius of filmmaking in one sense. And unlike an awful lot of other artist films, I think this is a film that is captivating as well. I think this is a film that you can put down. I can make my wife watch and she'll go, oh my God, that was really... You mightn't agree with or like the characters and their actions all that much, but you can see actually how it completely makes sense, and kind of how the world makes sense, and just you're caught in a complete maelstrom of experience here. And if there's a release from Criterion this year that jumps out to me, it is this one. And for all the other things that are going on in Boutique Blu Ray world, getting great releases of great films is something that we'll always be in support of. And this one, fabulous, fabulous. Which brings me to the top 2. And a pretty easy top 2, I have to say, for me this year. In fact, a pretty easy top 3, if I include Hiroshima Mon Amour in there. And my number 2 is an indicator release. And one that I'd gotten and then started to hear a bit about from other people about. This is, as I would say, using the slang or otherwise, different gravy. This is the Pinamini organisation. Now, I normally don't include box sets in these kind of year-end roundups, but this is a reasonably priced box set. It's not the £50 one that you'll see otherwise. This one takes 3 films, Haunted, Assassin and Moments, from an organisation that only made, 3 films and a short in it. And seeing the story of that film studio or that group of people that made it in all of their glory, how they were put together, the kind of things that motivated them, the restrictions they had, and actually how you get for your first feature, someone like Edward Woodward to star in a short film and be sensational in it. I think Haunted as a film might be the greatest film that I've seen this year, and I was amazed to hear people talk about how they don't think maybe it was that great or otherwise. It was just amazing. The story of a man who traps a woman in a room with the threat that he's going to shoot people on the street down below him. It's phenomenal, and it is aided by some wonderful performances. And then you go into Assassin and Moments, which they're all great movies. And you hear the story of the director and the filmmaker and kind of his genesis coming from film school and trying to make a career for himself and what that career became, and the people that were involved there at the start, the people that kind of the genesis of this world and this organization, both done through lots of featurettes and lots of people that are involved, lots of conversations, lots of using the resources of the people that were there. Man, whose idea was it to put this together? This is freaking sensational. As far as archiving of filmmaking within British cinema, we get it all here. You get great movies, you get great insight, you get a booklet that goes through the cast and the making, the difficulties of each of those movies. There's nothing left out. I can't think of what else they possibly could have added to it. This is really, really special. Plus the fact the films, I think, the cast and the people that they got to act in them, and then how it went along, and the people that stepped in and out of the roles and along the way, the people that thought, God, this is never going to be a success, you can take my role, or how that, it's just, superlatives have not been invented for how wonderful this release is. And probably, I'm talking about it that much, I'm probably thinking it should be number one. But number one, it is not. Because my number one release, again this year, comes from the same company. If anybody knows what my number one release was last year, it was the same company. I could have any number of choices for the release of the year. But this was a film that I hadn't actually seen. I'd seen actually the start of this before and never really finished on. God, we're talking about The Witch, the 4K release of The Witch from Second Sight. Look at that artwork. Anya Taylor-Joy. The goat. The moon in the house. Something else as artwork, but something else as a movie. I mean, Robert Eggers as a filmmaker. I watched Northman this year. I think I like Northman a lot more than other people. He's obviously done Lighthouse. This being his first feature film, it is absolutely incredible that this was somebody's first feature. I mean, the level of detail and research and commitment to authenticity. And I think if he hadn't got the authenticity of that world right, this wouldn't be anywhere near as effective as it is. It is a film that tells a story of kind of New England around a time when females were being accused of witchcraft, so any kind of thing that couldn't be explained by normal practices, if I'm sure it included medicine, it included other things, or women, distrust of women living by themselves, or women having a prominent role in society. I think all of that kind of stuff is so prevalent today, and yet this film encapsulates it in a way that does it in a fantastical way. It's the kind of film that I think my wife would love if she could get over the fact that it's freaky as all hell. But it's a brilliant movie, and it's a brilliant release. Some of the interviews with Anya Taylor-Joy, Ralph Ineson, etc., that are in this really bring to light, you know, what makes this such a wonderful movie. You have a booklet. I say a booklet. Sweet Jesus. This is a cracker. Oh, man. It has some phenomenal stuff inside it. You have the making of the farmhouse and the thing that they wanted to do, the making a script of it. Plus, you go into the exploration of, you know, the costumes that they made. That it's all in here. Plus the essays about what made this such a prominent and exciting depiction of New England at that time. And then, like, the performances, etc. The film's so wacky weird in places that it might be easy just to look at it and write it off, but actually what we get in spades is a freaky, weird, wacky, wonderful depiction of a world that probably never did exist. But you stretch the uses of storytelling to tell a fantastical story and put it in a release like this that is just utterly wonderful. And my release of the year. And even though I've dinged the corner of it up here, such a fool, but it's on me, it's still my release of the year, and one that I celebrate wholeheartedly. And I know Second Sight did another couple of very celebrated releases as well that didn't make the list, but it kind of shows you the quality stuff that you had this year. That's my top 10 list. What made yours? Or any of these that you think, what are you talking about, Chris? That's utterly insane. You can't have liked that much. I'm telling you, I did. I liked it that much, and there's plenty more stuff that I missed out. I'll actually I'm hoping to do a couple of series of videos that feature companies and content that didn't even make this top 10 list, but that I think as a whole and as a year of worth of releases really should be celebrated a bit more. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you again in the new year with more videos, because I haven't made any in bloody ages. And I need to get back to making videos again because I like talking about films, especially with all yous. Have a great new year if it's around that time when you've seen it, and take care. I'll speak to you soon.